The ancient wind sweeping down from the frost fangs was a river of knives, thin and whistling between the crenellations of Winterfell's battlements, worrying at the soot-dark stone as if it might one day carve its own passage to the very heart of the keep. Jon Snow leaned into that wind atop the east parapet, fingers wrapped around a merlon, hair snapping like a flag behind him. It smelled of distant pine smoke, of cold iron, and something wilder still, the vastness of the land beyond the wall, perhaps, or the memory of a people who had never bowed to kings. Dawn's first embers bled into the sky, paling the constellations one star at a time. Below, the courtyard stirred, stable boys yawning awake, kitchen fires kindling, the forge beginning its daily thunder. Life, inevitable and unknowing, went on. Yet in Jon's breast, nothing felt inevitable any longer. The letter clutched in his other hand seemed to weigh more than a greatsword. It was no longer than a dozen lines. The parchment rippled from the too-tight grip that had borne it up the steps, but each line carried the force of a hammer blow. He had read it once by the flickering sconce outside Maester Luwin's chambers, once more by the hearth in his own bedchamber, and twice again on the tower stair, as though a different reading might conjure different words. It had not. The wax was stark gray and direwolf stamped, his father's private seal, yet the script was Ned Stark's, neither in hand nor in spirit. The ink bled urgency. Come at once, before sunrise. Bring the boy. Tell no one. The boy was Bran, still sleeping and still broken in body, but burning with a new fierce life in his mind. His dreams of ravens and soaring vantage. Jon had known the Maester would resist moving him. The Maester was right to fear the jostling of a litter in the pre-dawn chill. But the order was the Lord of Winterfell's own. And Ned Stark, who never asked twice for the same thing, had summoned Jon as well. A different gust cut across the battlements. Jon closed his eyes. There, beneath the howl of wind, he heard another sound, the soft tread of direwolf paws. The weight of Ghost's head pressed into the crook of his elbow, fur thick and moon-pale. Jon's throat tightened. Ghost looked up, red eyes gleaming, and seemed to share his master's unease. Quiet, Jon whispered, not knowing whether he counseled the wolf or his own misfiring heart. He turned from the ledge, tucked a letter beneath his cloak, and descended the steps 2 at a time. By the time he crossed the Godswood Bridge, the sycamores along the banks of the hot water moat were shedding their last leaves, fluttering like copper coins in the half-light. Steam curled above the moat in spectral banners. Jon half expected to see figures materialize in that shifting mist. Old Nan's giants, perhaps, or some faceless omen foretelling the storm to come. But only ghosts of warmth danced there, vanishing in the higher winds. Outside the quiet shell of the broken tower, 2 men waited, Robb, shoulders squared, sword belted, and Theon Greyjoy, lounging with habitual insolence against a pillar, though Even's habitual grin faltered in the gray half-light. Both turned as Jon approached. "Your pardon," Robb said, voice pitched low. "I would have come sooner, but father left orders for you alone." His eyes flicked to the letter protruding from Jon's cloak. "When Luwin woke me, he'd already fetched Bran's litter." Jon folded his arms to contain a sudden tremor. "Did he say why we were summoned?" "Nothing beyond. Urgent." Robb glanced behind him toward the stairwell where Bran's nurses murmured over preparations. "Urgent enough to move Bran before the Maester wished. Father never risked him so before." Theon snorted, scuffing a heel against the flagstones. "Urgent is when iron-born sails crest your horizon. Urgent is when your lover's husband rides through the door steel in hand. Lords playing nursemaid before dawn." Robb turned a glare on him that brokered no answer. Theon held up his palms, muttered an apology, and drifted sharper-edged to silence. Jon looked past them to the tower door. "If father calls, we obey." The words sounded strange on his tongue. A remembrance of younger mornings when Ned Stark's summons meant lesson or reprimand, but never had they felt heavy enough to bow his spine as now. Ghost padded forward, nose testing the lintel as if reading scents others could not. Inside the broken tower, the air was still, smelling faintly of old wood rot, and the herb poultices Maester Lewin used to ease Bran's pain. Bran lay swaddled on a wicker litter, eyelids fluttering as if chasing dreams even while awake. His cheeks flushed with fever, but when his lashes parted, there was wakefulness, blue eyes bright as summer sky. JON knelt, brushing a lock of hair from his half-brother's brow. "You ride with me, little brother," he whispered. Bran's gaze sharpened. His lips formed around an unspoken question, but no sound emerged. Since the fall, words came seldom and cost dearly. He only nodded, as solemn as a grown lord. They gathered his blankets, fastened the litter to poles borne by 2 Stark guardsmen, and set off across the yard. Dawn pushed pink fingers across the eastern rampart, slowly lifting the haze from Winterfell's towers. JON's stride felt measured to a slow drum, yet his pulse galloped. Through arched corridors scented of straw and shadow, they walked until the familiar gave way to seldom seen. Ned Stark waited not in his solar, nor the great hall, but in the crypt stair descending beneath the first keep. A single lantern glowed in his grasp, lighting the descent into ancient cold. He lifted it as they approached, and the flame painted hollows beneath his eyes, lines JON had never noticed deepening in the half-light. The Lord of Winterfell looked older than the dawn behind him. "Leave us," Ned said to the guards. Robb protested. "Father, if this concerns Bran, it concerns all of us," Ned allowed. "But these first words are for JON's ears alone. Wait above. Guard the stair." Robb's jaw clenched. His obedience took effort. The guards complied, one reluctant glance at Bran. JON's heart hammered all the harder when the stair door shut, sealing them in crypt hush. Lantern held high, Ned guided them downward. Ghost padded at their heels. The steps wound thrice round, depositing them among stone effigies of kings in the north. Stark lords long dead lay with dire wolves at their feet, iron swords rusting across their laps to keep vengeful spirits at bay. The chill here bypassed skin, lancing straight to bone. Yet Ned walked unshivering between the statues, halting before one niche, yet vacant. The coffin's heavy stone lid lay askew, revealing the bare cavity within, as though prepared for arrival. Bran's litter was set gently beside it. Ned knelt by his younger son, fingers resting lightly upon Bran's shoulder in a silent benediction. Then he turned to JON. "I summoned you because walls and open sky alike may have ears," Ned began quietly. "In this place the dead keep their secrets." JON opened his mouth, found no voice, shut it again. The crypt seemed to swallow sound. Even ghosts' breathing was soft as snowfall. "For 15 years I have borne a secret," Ned continued. "Not merely mine to keep, but yours to live. I have been father to you, and am honored in it, but only in name. Your mother was my sister Lyanna, your father." He hesitated. Lantern light flickered. Somewhere overhead, a far rumble, perhaps cartwheels at the dawn gate, echoed into the silence. The words Ned spoke next were soft, but they crashed through JON like a tower collapsing. Was Rhaegar Targaryen? Time fractured. The chill of the crypt vanished, replaced by roaring blood in JON's ears. Every memory of his life, dark looks from Lady Stark, his snow-white skin set against Arya's summer brown, the quiet corners beside Winterfell's warm hearth where he found refuge, rearranged themselves in a single violent instant. His knee almost buckled. Ghosts snarled, hackles lifting as though to strike the Stone Kings themselves. "No," JON breathed. "That cannot be." Yet even as he denied it, something inside him stepped forward to claim the shape of truth. Dreams of a red tower suffused with rose perfume, a woman's whisper, "Promise me, Ned," an old sadness in his father's eyes each time JON asked of his mother, All of it tumbled into coherence with terrifying grace. "There is more," Ned said, voice tight. "Robert sends riders, Worcester south. If Robert learns your blood, he will hunt you as the last dragon. I swore to Lyanna I would protect you, even from our friends, but war cares little for oaths." His gaze flicked to Bran. "I meant to keep this until you swore your vows and left the world of crowns behind. But fate has moved." Li Damda. Jon's throat worked. The lantern's flame wagged, scattering phantom shadows of sword-wielding kings along the walls. "Why tell me now?" "Because I must depart for King's Landing within the hour. Because Robert will want you at the wall, far and forgotten. Because I may not return. And because should I fall, Winterfell will need a protector who understands what you are." The litter's wicker creaked as Bran shifted, his eyes wide. Ned's words weighed like chainmail. Jon remembered Lord Commander Mormont's talk of oath and honor, remembered Benjen riding out and never returning, remembered the draw of the wall like a far drum. But above all, he remembered how Ghost had found him the night before last, restless beneath the heart tree, as if sensing a door about to open. Ned's hand settled on Jon's shoulder. "I will not command your silence. I ask it all the same. Give me a moon's turn to judge the realm's mood. Then—" "No." The word escaped before thought. Father and son turned equally startled eyes on Jon. "Silence will not save me," he said, voice hoarse. "If Robert's banners march, secrets rot. Rumor already circles. Sam Glover swears I look too much the Southrun princeling. And I will not live my life as a lie, while Bran and the rest bear the cost." "You know not the cost of truth," Ned warned. "Then teach me," Jon said, surprising himself with his vehemence. The crypt rang with it. "Let me ride south with you. Let me stand before Robert as I am. If he would slay me for the blood in my veins, better he try it while you still draw breath to defend me." Ned's jaw knotted. "You would put your brothers in peril. I would spare them peril born of ignorance. When the truth comes, let it come by my tongue, not some court whisperers." Jon exhaled, slow and shaking. "I ask this of you, father, or uncle, whatever you are to me now." In that instant, Ned's eyes glistened, not with tears, but the reflection of the lantern's lonely flame. He seemed to look through Jon, through years of restrained affection, to the infant he had carried from the bed of blood and dying roses. When he spoke, the words fell like lead. "Prepare, then. We ride at dawn's full light." "Nay." The decision settled like frost on stone. Jon felt its chill and its clarity. Somewhere above, in the living castle, bells began to peal the hour. Not yet sunrise, but close. Soon the yard would clatter with hooves, the gates grind open. Soon Robert's court would yawn awake to summer wine, never dreaming that a dragon stirred in the north. A tremor too fine to be felt passed through Bran. The boy's eyes rolled white for a moment, and his lips parted. Jon leaned close, expecting silence, but Bran's voice came thin as spider silk. "Wing in shadow," he murmured. Ned stiffened. Jon's scalp prickled. Had Bran been dreaming just now? The truth inside that broken body seemed to perch above mortal ken, half raven cry, half riddle. Jon straightened, cleared his throat, and turned to Ghost. The direwolf regarded him with eyes like hot coals sunk in snow. Perhaps Ghost, too, had always known. They carried Bran up the stair. Robb awaited them, face set, hand fisted on the hilt at his hip. Theon lounged no more, eyes darting with nerves. Ned spoke brief orders. Pack light, ride swift, small retinue only. Robb demanded to come. Ned denied him. Theon pressed for word of reason. Ned offered none. Catelyn had not yet risen, and perhaps that spared them all a battle. By the hour of sunrise, a thin column of riders filed through Winterfell's Hunter's Gate. Ned, Jon, 2 Stark men got arms. Maester Lewin on a mule. There was no leaving him behind with Bran, and Hullen the master of horse. Bran's litter swung between 2 sturdy Garans. JON rode Ghost's white shadow. The direwolf loped silent beneath the horses' steam-clouded breaths. As the portcullis thudded down behind them, JON looked back once. High atop the battlements, Robb Stark stood black-cloaked, hair bright auburn caught by morning light. For a heartbeat, their eyes locked across the growing distance. Robb's filled with questions JON could not answer. And then the road dipped. Trees rose, Winterfell's walls vanished behind living pine. 2 days' hard ride would bring them to Moat Cailin. From there, the King's Road unspooled like a scar through the Riverlands, past the Twins and the Whispering Woods, and on south to the Trident. Ned set a ruthless pace, halting only when the Garans tired under Bran's weight. Through the long hours, JON rode beside him. Lantern secrets now open between them, yet seldom spoken aloud. Words were brittle in the chill autumn air. It was easier to speak of trivial things. The southern harvest, the price of grain, the wall's coming winter. But always beneath such talk lay the quaking gulf of identity. Nightfall camp found them under a tangle of storm-stripped birches. Firelight sprang shadows along trampled grass, while wind hummed low through stark branches. Bran slept, the maester dosing him with dream wine. Hullen hobbled the horses, and the guards dozed at the perimeter. Ned handed JON a cup of watered wine, sat across the fire, and stared into the flames. Ember sparks lofted between them like tiny, desperate comets. "Tell me of your dreams," Ned said at last. JON squinted. "Dreams? Of late you walk the yard as though half elsewhere. I feared it was grief for Bran. Was it this blood calling you?" JON considered. Was? No, at least, I could not have named it. He sipped, searching memory. "I have dreamed of dragons. Not like old stories where they burn the world, but close. Wing beats like thunder in my chest. Sometimes I ride one, feeling the heat of its scales. Sometimes I see one in shadow above a field of ice. When I wake, my heart is hammering." He shrugged self-consciously. "Summer tales?" Ned's gaze was distant, lost in some echo. "The blood remembers, they say." He poked the fire. Sparks burst. Rhaegar was a studious boy, not given to play, but when he found prophecy in his songs, there was no turning him. Ned's jaw worked. "Your life must not be given to songs and shadows, JON. The realm bleeds for songs. None." JON nodded, though dread coiled. If prophecy had guided Rhaegar to his doom, what path lay for the sun? He glanced at Ghost, sprawled behind him, pale head resting forepaws. The wolf's breaths were slow, deliberate. "Will you still take the black?" Ned asked quietly. JON started. His vows, his place at the wall. He had not thought of them since crossing Winterfell's gate. He opened his mouth to say, of course, honor, duty, then hesitated. The Night's Watch was his dream because the world offered no other. Bastard could find respect only where birth meant nothing. But if he were no bastard, "I don't know," he admitted. "Everything feels shifted. The wall now seems both farther and nearer. Part of me still yearns for it. Another part wonders if I can serve better elsewhere." "Wherever you serve the realm," Ned said. "Dragon or wolf, it matters little if honor guides your flight." The fire crackled. JON studied Ned's lined face, the wind lines at his eyes, the gray streaking his beard. A sudden surge of affection swamped him, love sharpened by terror of loss. If Robert's court proved snake pit enough to end his father, no vow north or south would matter. He would burn the world to keep this man breathing. "Father," he said, tasting the word, "when we reach King's Landing, we speak truth to Robert." Ned sighed. "Truth, yes. Yet the whole truth, perhaps not all at once. Robert is quick with wrath and slower with thought. I must read his temper. I would spare you his hazard if I can. Jon bristled. I won't hide behind your cloak. You will do as honor and survival demand, Ned countered, gentle but unyielding. We must see the shape of the board before moving the queen. Jon's brow furrowed. Queen? Ned's eyes reflected flame. A dragon's rightful place is not on the wall, and if Robert will not permit you life, there are others who might rally to your banner. Houses still loyal to the dragon, or simply weary of lions. He exhaled, as though the weight of unspoken futures pressed on his lungs. But first we win you the privilege of breathing long enough to choose. Jon stared, rocked anew. He had dreamt sometimes of lands beyond the wall, never of crowns. Yet the notion tasted both venomous and sweet. He spoke no more that night, curling beside Ghost, eyes tracing stars through birch branches until sleep washed him into crimson-winged dreams. At Moat Cailin, the ruins rose out of morning fog like the bones of some ancient behemoth half-sunken bog. Grey watchtowers leaned jagged, their stone innards hollow as flutes. The air stank of peat and stagnant water. Yet beneath that rot lay the last fastness barring the south from the north. Any force must funnel through, for the causeway was the only solid road across the swamps of the Neck. Ned's party crossed the long, broken causeway at a trot, boots splashing muck, hooves drumming half-submerged cobble. Crannogman hunters watched from reed skiffs, bows half-drawn, but arrows never loosed, after glimpsing the direwolf at Jon's side. By midday they rode beneath the weirwood-arched gate of Grey Water Watch. The castle was not where Jon expected. First to west, then north, then east the towers seemed to drift, rising from mist where a heartbeat earlier there had been only reeds. Maester Luin murmured of magic. Hullen spit toward spirit. Jon felt Ghost's unease, hackles stiff. The lord of this moving marsh castle, Howland Reed, a slight man in mottled greens, spear tipped with dragonglass, met them on a swaying plank bridge. His face lit when he saw Ned Stark. The clasp of their arms held old victories and older grief. Reed's eyes lingered on Jon, pupils widening as though seeing more than flesh. Yet he asked no question. Instead, he ushered them into warmth. Peat smoke halls hung with woven rushes depicting the Neck's legends. Lizard lions, children of the forest, giants wading through knee-deep water. Ned spoke privately with Reed a long hour while Bran was settled on furs. When Ned emerged, his face bore quiet resolve. To Jon he said, Lord Reed swore to my sister's dying wish. He knows all that I have kept. His counsel may be truer than mine. That night, the Crannogman Lord sat cross-legged beside Bran's pallet, grey eyes luminous in firelight. Reed spoke of Lyanna, how she had laughed sword-bright in the Grinwood, how Rhaegar crowned her queen of love and beauty under the eyes of thousands, how armies later bled for that fleeting moment. He spoke of the Tower of Joy, where 7 Northmen and 3 Kingsguard danced their last. He spoke of a bed of blood where Lyanna shared her son's name with a brother, bound by honor and grief. He ended with a question. What would you make of the name she gifted you? Aegon Targaryen, last dragon of Summerhall's ashes. Jon had no answer, not then. Reed offered him only this. A crown is a burden, not a gift, but truth can be a blade, pointed outward, and it may win you glory, or carve you hollow. Hold it inward first. Know its edge before you lift it. Reed placed dragonglass dagger into Jon's palm. For the long night, whenever it falls. Jon lay awake long after, the dagger black as frozen pitch across his knees. Ghost curled sentinel at his feet. Wind keened through reed chimneys, sounding like lost horns of ancient watchmen. Beyond the shifting walls of Grey Water Watch, war drums faintly echoed. Down in the south, wheels of power turned, ignorant of the dragons awakening in the swamps of the Neck. 5 days later, on the King's Road south of the Twins, they found refugees streaming north, small folk with bundles strapped to backs, ox-drawn carts creaking beneath bedding, and hearthpots. Stories spilled like cracked grain sacks. King Robert's royal progress cut short by a boar's tusk, the hand's arrest, lions in the castle, wolves in chains. Whispers said the queen's son now ruled with blood and spite. Some claimed Eddard Stark, already dead. Others claimed dragons, risen. Jon watched his father's face go to stone as each tale drove another iron shard. Ned pressed on, faster. Even Maester Luwin's protests could not slow him. Bran rode awake now more often, fever broken, though his body remained limp from waist down. He gazed upon the flight of refugees with an unmoving solemnity, as though studying puzzle pieces of an unseen game. Midway through the green fields of the Trident, a raven found them, wings ragged from relentless flight. Its message bore the Lannister seal, Eddard Stark attainted of treason, his bannermen to lay down arms, his heirs hostages for his good behavior in the capital. Ned read it, crushed the scroll, and spent that night apart from the camp, kneeling in silent prayer beneath unfamiliar stars. At dawn he said only, "We ride for Riverrun," though the King's Road led straight to King's Landing. To ride into the lion's den now was to invite death before word could be spoken. This change of course carried them west along the Red Fork, where river turned rust-red in sunrise, as though already filled with war spoil. 2 days out from Riverrun they met the outriders of House Tully, cousin Sir Brynden Blackfish at their head, gray hair whipping like the banner on his lance. Recognition flashed. The Blackfish spurred forward, eyes wide at Bran's litter. "Your pardon, Lord Stark," Brynden said after brief greetings. "I feared you captive south of the Neck. Riverrun holds, but Lannister host threatens from the Golden Tooth. The Riverlords rally to Lady Catelyn's summons. Your wife arrived with the imp in chains." Ned's eyebrows climbed. Catelyn captured Tyrion and brought him before her sister at the Eyrie. Some say Lannister gold stirs half these storms. Brynden's gaze fell on Jon. "You've a ghostly shadow at your side, lad. What tales follow you?" Jon felt the old reflex to say, "I'm no lord, only a snow." The truth burned that instinct away. "Tales enough," he said, offering faint smile. Brynden nodded once, as if glimpsing something in Jon's eyes that confirmed rumor, then turned back to Ned. "Your bannermen clamor for Stark banners to fly. They'll roar louder, yet knowing you ride unharmed." "Nodded, King, or unharmed, yes," Ned said, "but burdened, and the realm may roar back." Brynden studied him. "We shall speak within stone walls." Riverrun rose like a ship of red sandstone. At the confluence of Tumblestone and Red Fork, its walls washed pink by evening light. Inside, chaos reigned. Bannermen quartered wherever straw and roof could be found. Forges hammering day and night, ravens arriving with news grim and grimmer. Catelyn Stark greeted husband and sons with fierce embrace and sharper words. Word of Ned's arrest had reached her long before Ned reached her gate, and her fury at Lannisters burned hotter than any forge. But when she saw the litter-bearing Bran, she broke, falling to knees beside him, tears mixing joy and sorrow as she kissed his brow, whispering prayers to the Seven, though she was sworn to the old gods. That night the great hall pulsed with planning, Edmure Tully eager for vengeance, the Blackfish counseling caution, Lords Mallister and Blackwood snarling at each other over command. Ned listened, but offered little. His mind turned not on how to break sieges or bleed lions, but on how to usher truth into a world on fire. It was Maester Luwin who proposed the gathering. "The lords will not chase rumor," he said. "Bring them to one chamber, present the truth in their hearing, and let honor bind their tongues." Ned agreed, reluctantly. Jon felt the weight of hundreds of eyes the moment he entered the solar beside his father. Lords sworn to the wolf and the trout, knights of the green fork, sworn swords bearing personal banners. Brynden closed the doors. The room fell hushed. Ned stood, dark gray cloak brushing floor. He spoke of Lyanna, of Rhaegar, of a child born under a bleeding star, of vows heavier than pride. He spoke of Robert's love, turned to wrath. Each name etched silence deeper. At last he gestured to Jon. I present you Aegon Targaryen, my sister's son, true-born dragon of the north. Noise exploded, chairs scraped, hands flew to hilts, curses and prayers tangled in midair. Among them Jon saw faces blanch, others flush. Lord Jason Mallister spat wine. Sir Mark Piper gaped like a landed fish. Yet amid uproar, the Blackfish's voice cut. Hear the boy speak before you damn or bend the knee. Nyaun Pugaidi. The room relented by degrees. Jon stepped forward, pulse thudding in throat. Ghost was shadow at his heel. He looked at these men, some who'd trained with him in Winterfell's yard, others strangers whose swords might tomorrow guard or slit his throat. He inhaled. I claimed this name 2 weeks past, he began. Until then, I was Jon Snow, sworn ready to take the black bastard of Winterfell. That life was built on a lie born of love. I ask no throne. I seek no conquest. I seek truth and the right to live it. He paused, scanning their faces. If the realm would kill a boy for his blood, then let men of honor say it plain, and let honor decide if such a realm is worth saving. A hush fell so thick the fire seemed to shrink. Lord Blackwood rose, hand over heart. I followed Brandon Stark once, and my sons paid in blood. I would not follow Dragonspawn. Sir Hugo Vance countered. If wolves name him kin, I see a prince worth more than Lannister coin. Edmure Tully rubbed his temples. 7 save us. We bleed enough without a new highborn feud. Yet it was Brynden who again commanded the room. The boy speaks of no crown, only life. Even if we spurn him, the truth now flies on raven wings. Better we hold him close than let Lannisters seize the tail. Heads nodded. Arguments waged like skirmishes. Through it all Ned watched, silent, jaw tight. Jon felt as though he balanced on a blade. One tilt he would tumble to doom. When the debate ebbed, Lord Vayan Poole, once steward of Winterfell, sent south and newly returned, stepped forth. Let the boy prove dragon fire yet tempered by wolf honor. Let him march when we march, bleed if we bleed, and mind oath as well as any. If he stands the forge of war, I'll name him prince. So resolved, the council dissolved near dawn. Jon sagged against a wall outside the solar, drained. Ghost leaned into him. Ned paused by his side. You spoke well, he said quietly. Perhaps not wisely. Jon returned. Wisdom and valor seldom share the same heart. Ned offered faint grin. Yet both are seeds of kingship. Jon shook his head. I'm no king, nor am I, Ned answered. Yet the realm would crown fools for less. He clapped Jon's shoulder. Sleep. Tomorrow we muster banners. Jon watched his father depart, cloak whispering along stone. Tomorrow banners. Tomorrow swords and cries and rivers turned red. Somewhere in King's Landing a false king sharpened cruelty. Somewhere beyond the wall an ancient cold stirred, indifferent to all human crowns. The world rolled toward reckoning. He turned to Ghost. Come. Together they walked into the corridor's hush. Outside at a window the night sky bled violet, first hint of dawn creeping. Across 1,000 leagues, a dragon stirred in its shell of lies, feeling the world's heat and hearing, faintly, the song that would call it forth. Jon did not know if he was the singer or the flame, only that he was awake now, and the world had changed with him. He lay that night dreaming of snowfields lit by scarlet fire, of wolves running beneath wings vast enough to shadow kingdoms, and of a lone heart tree weeping red leaves into a pool bright as molten gold. Above it all echoed Lyanna's voice, soft, sorrowful, resolute. "Promise me." And beneath those words pulsed another, deeper rhythm, the beating of wings that had not yet taken form, but would soon thunder across the heavens, whether for salvation or doom. The drums began in the darkness before dawn, soft at first, an almost human heartbeat muffled by distance, then gathering resonance until every stone in Riverrun seemed to pulse. Jon woke beneath a rough wool blanket, the air tasting of river mist and lamp smoke. Ghost rose with him, a pale wraith at the tent flap. As Jon pushed aside the canvas, the direwolf slipped into pre-dawn gloom like breath on winter air. Beyond the rows of pavilions, soldiers of a dozen riverlords were stirring. Men in the black battlemented surcoats of House Blackwood, red trout of Tully, green willow of House Manderley, strangers made kin by looming war. Hundreds knelt lacing chausses, fastening breastplates frosted with dew, passing wineskins hand to hand. The sound of steel rang sharp as truth, a forest of swords drawn from scabbards for inspection, catching the first sheen of false dawn. Campfires sputtered against the breeze, smoke coiling around pikes planted like saplings in damp earth. Jon pulled on his leather jerkin, buckling page steel over cloth gambeson. The breastplate still felt alien, too polished, too princely for a bastard's shoulders. But there was no hiding behind the black of Castle Black now. A red wolf's head flared across the polished steel, the sigil of House Stark, overpainted by Riverrun smiths to mark him publicly as Ned Stark's blood. Beneath it, Maester Luwin had sewn a subtle line of crimson silk tapering into a three-headed dragon. The twin sigils shimmered each time lamplight struck, both proclamation and challenge. Wolf and dragon as one. Outside, Hullen, the master of horse, stood with reins in hand. "Your mount, lord," he murmured, offering a tall gray destrier Jon scarcely recognized as the same colt had once ridden at practice rings. Its coat had darkened, muscles corded from the long ride south, eyes bright and eager. Took the liberty of molding a barding that will not slow him. "You'll want speed over vanity, I reckon." "And the mountsman's eye, Hullen," Jon said, clapping his forearm. "My thanks." Nearby, Bran's wicker litter had been refitted to a small wagon whose wheels bore iron bands forged overnight. Invention of Riverrun's wheelwrights, so the boy might travel without jostle, yet remain in his brother's company. Bran lay propped on soft pelts, beaming at every soldier who passed. His fever had broken, color lingered on his cheeks like the memory of health. When Bran caught Jon's gaze, his eyes lit, sea blue and fervent. "Today," he whispered. "Today we ride reconnaissance," Jon corrected, stepping to the wagon's side. "No battles yet, little crow." Bran's smile widened. "Even ravens must test their wings." Jon rubbed his knuckles through Bran's thick hair. "Tell me if the bumps grow painful." "They won't," Bran said, voice firm as command. "I dreamt last night I was a tree rooted on a hill. Trees do not fear jostling carts." Jon blinked. "And did the tree wear saddle or sword?" "It wore snow." Bran's gaze drifted to distant mist, and something terrible was coming through it, something cold and hungry. But the tree burned, and the cold turned aside. Before Jon could answer, hoofbeats clattered. Ned Stark emerged between tents astride a rangy courser, black cloak rippling like river banners. Chainmail gleamed at his shoulders, but his helm hung from the pommel, leaving his streak-silver hair exposed to violet dawn. Lords clustered behind, Bryn and Tully and Scale Quiress, the color of old iron, Lord Jason Mallister. In bright green surcoat, Sir Desmond Grell with a morning star slung at hip. Ned blinked at Bran, surprised perhaps to find the boy so clear-eyed, then half smiled and turned to Jon. "Banners mustered?" he asked. "Over 2,000 Riverlords, 700 Winterfell men who marched after us, 300 from the Vale who followed your lady's call," Jon said, repeating the tally, head drilled through half the night. "Light cavalry rides patrol to the west. Scouts report a Lannister host assembling at the Golden Tooth. 12,000 foot, 2,000 horse." Ned nodded. "Tywin means to punch the Riverlands before we can gather. We'll not meet him on ground of his choosing. For now, north of the Red Fork remains our shield." He eyed Bran's wagon. "You are certain?" "As he is," Jon said. "And Reed's Crannogman taught me seep and marshcraft." "You spent 2 nights there," Ned interrupted, but the corner of his mouth twitched wryly. He sighed. "Very well. Ride 10 miles ahead of the column. Mark villages still loyal, note fords the heavy carts can pass. Avoid contact. If Lannister outriders press, you flee, you do not fight." "War?" "I don't like it," Lord Mallister interjected, pulling rein beside them. Sending the boy so far ahead invites capture. A hostage such as him could break a rebellion before it forms." Jon felt heat crawl his neck. He answered before his father could. "No rebellion forms from whispers and shadows, my lord. If I hide behind walls, rumor will paint me 10 heads worse than truth. Better I be seen riding in your company, proving I am wolf-bred." "None to shoes the other." Mallister's mouth puckered, but Ned laid a hand on Jon's bracer. "Enough. My son rides with scouts, not banners. Mallister, you will keep flank guards tight. We march at first full light for the crosswater village of Stonehenge, then to Pink Maiden if the way remains clear." A horn cut across camp, 3 short bursts. Movement cascaded. Torches pitched into buckets, fires kicked out, bedrolls lashed to pack mules. Jon swung into saddle and guided his destrier beside Bran's wagon. Hullen handed up a boiled leather cap, a wolf's head brooch fastening its cheek guard. Jon felt the weight settle atop his skull like a promise. Ghost trotted ahead, white fur ghostly in lifting fog. They rode west at trot, Jon sharing scouts, vanguard with Sir Jory Castle, and 6 gray-cloaked outriders. The land beyond Riverrun rolled gentle, wheat stubble waving bronze beneath early sun. Here and there abandoned cottages sagged, doors splintered by raiders who'd come and gone like summer storms. Carrion crows hopped along old ruts, tearing worms from turned earth. Twice they passed small folk refugees skulking tree lines with their livestock, women leading cows by hemp rope, boys lugging sacks of barley. Jory offered them bread and pointed them to Riverrun. They replied with blessings and wide, fearful eyes fixed on the direwolf ghosting through dew. Near midday, they crested a low ridge and saw Stonehenge's palisade straddling the Red Fork's north bank. Smoke drifted from chawed beams. Copper roofs of manor houses glittered through ruined timber. A sally gate hung from one hinge. Jon motioned halt, signaled 2 riders to circle wide. Ghost padded ahead into stillness, white tail vanishing between toppled wagons. A wind stirred, embers glowed beneath collapsed shingles, hinting the raid was less than a day old. Jon dismounted, tied reins to a blackened post, and advanced. The scent hit like a hammer, blood and baked wood rot, sweet corruption overrunning summer flowers trampled beneath horse hooves. He steeled himself, pushing deeper. Inside the gate, a smithy lay in cinders, horseshoes scattered across cracked anvil. Across the yard 3 corpses sprawled, throat cut, bearing the sigil of House Bracken. Their ringmail, still faintly steamed where fat smoldered. Jory emerged from a house stub, face grim. Stonehenge was Blackwood lands once, Looks like Bracken skirmishers looted and burned, no doubt at Lannister urging. Divide our foes whenever possible. Any survivors? Jon asked. One, Pynt. Jory beckoned. Jon followed into a half-standing barn, where a girl of perhaps 15 crouched amidst hay, clutching a newborn swaddled in blood-flecked linen. She flinched when Jon entered, shielding babe with thin arms. Her gown was torn to waist, one shoulder purple from rough grip. Ghost slipped inside behind Jon. The girl shrank, then froze as the direwolf sniffed her hand and sat. Easy, Jon murmured, squatting. The wolf won't hurt you. He offered his water skin. She stared, trembling, then took it and drank greedily. Milk dribbled down her chin. Name? Jon asked. Rowan Lord. Her voice cracked. The men came before sun, wearing bracken sigils, but some had lions on their belt. They took what grain we had. Burned the meal house, they. Her gaze fell to straw, crimsonied behind her. Tears welled. Jon bowed his head, rage singing behind his eyes, but face calm. He'd heard tales of men raping and looting. Now the smell of it filled his lungs. He eased a silver stag from his purse, placed it in her palm. Ride with us to Riverrun. The Tully Maester will see to the babe. You will not be harmed again. She clutched coin like lifeline. What's 1 silver to men who wear plates of gold? Jory stepped forward. Men who wear gold did this. Men who wear gray will do better. Jon helped her stand, guided her to the wagon where Bran waited. Bran smiled gently, offering a water skin. Rowan hesitated, then accepted, eyes widening as Bran introduced himself as Stark and Wing dreaming. The girl's wary lines softened. While outriders scouted for ambush, Jon and Jory tallied damages. 20 dead, 6 women missing, storehouses gutted. If Bracken men marched openly with lions, then Tywin Lannister was bribing ancient rivalries in the Riverlands to shatter cohesion before swords ever crossed. Jon seethed. They buried bodies where they fell, too many to cart in a single wagon, marking graves with a 7-pointed star scratched into charred planks. Ghost lay across the threshold of the barn, growling each time Jon hefted a corpse inside. Only when final grave filled did Jon notice the old wound on Ghost's flank reopened. In searching ruins, the wolf had gashed himself on jagged tin. Jon knelt, cleaned blood with linens, bound wound tight. Ghost licked Jon's wrist once, red eyes steady. They remounted. Noon sun glared, but morning's fog still clung in ripples along low ground. Jon gave Rowan a seat behind Bran's pallet. She clutched her child and stared back at smoking palisade until distance blurred her tears. Beyond Stonehenge the road forked, southward toward Pink Maiden Castle, eastward along river to Riverrun. The outrider captain argued splitting force to warn Lord Tully of Bracken treachery, but Jon saw risk of piecemeal capture. He resolved to press onward to Pink Maiden, seat of House Piper, before sundown, then route east under cover of night, trusting fresh horses and river ferries to outpace lions. They crossed barley fields where Lannister banners had trampled stalks flat. Once they spied smoke twisting up from woods beyond a hill, scouts returned, reporting a hamlet raised but empty of life. The Red Fork curved like a lazy adder through meadows, where willows dipped branches into slow green current. Geese took flight as they passed, honking alarm. A heron soared overhead, its shadow skimming river surface like pale blade. Mid-afternoon, they halted at a shallow ford to water mounts. Jon knelt by Bran as Maester checked pulses and eyes. Bran insisted he felt fine, better when sun's warm. Rowan nursed her babe beneath Bran's spare cloak. Jon scanned tree line. Every ripple of shadow could hide crossbowmen. Ghost drifted midstream, drinking water and scenting wind. As they remounted, a horn call shattered quiet. 2 notes, distance closing. Jory cursed. From west, over crest of low ridge, A plume of dust rose, golden glints pulsing within. Lannister scouts, at least 30, racing lean coursers. Jon felt blood surge. "Ride!" he barked. Bran's wagon lurched into motion, Hullen cracking reins. Outriders formed ring, shields angled behind, spears bristling. Jon spurred his grey to flank guard, Ghost paralleling through brush. Lannister riders crested hill, pennons snapping crimson. Top. Lead riders saw Stark cloak, barked command. 20 lances tilted. Bowstrings! Jory shouted. 2 Stark men loosed shafts, dropping first pair of enemy outriders, but more fanned wide, meaning to encircle. Jon gouged his speed. Bran's wagon could not outrun fresh cavalry. Into the alder copse. Jon pointed east, where canopy-crowded riverbank. Trees would hinder horse charge. Hullen veered wagon, wheels bouncing. Jory's outriders fell back, firing arrows at pursuers. A Lannister shaft hissed past Jon's ear. He felt winds kiss along scalp. They plunged into alders, branches whipping armor. The wagon skidded through mulch, nearly tipping. Ghost burst from undergrowth, teeth bared, leapt at first horseman to follow. The stallion screamed, went down kicking. Ghost tore the rider's throat, crimson spraying stark white fur. Jon wheeled, sword drawn. A lion-helmed knight hammered through brush directly at him. Jon lifted shield, lance head shattered, pine bark inches from his head, splinters stinging cheek. He caught rein of the knight's horse, yanked sideways, blade flashing to hamstring. Steed collapsed, knight rolling free, drawing dagger. Jon's sword met it, edge on edge, clanging sparks. The knight lunged. Jon sidestepped, swept low, severing tendon. The man screamed, toppled. Jon drove point down through visor, sick crunch. He spun, scanning. 2 more lions dead beneath alder trunks. Arrows plucked from tree limbs still quivering. Jory called rally. Lannisters regrouping outside wood realized jam of branches favored Stark defense and wheeled away south. Bourne blew retreat. They galloped off, leaving 5 corpses. Jon wiped blade on moss. Ghost limped, fur matted red, not his own. Jon scratched behind ears. The wolf nuzzled his palm. Rowan crouched by wagon, whispering prayers. Bran's eyes glistened. Fear or excitement, it was hard to tell. Wing and shadow, he murmured faintly. Jory cursed the encounter as they reformed. They'll ride to Tywin, tell him the tale. The lion knows we harbor a dragon now. Then the lion will hunt, Jon said. We must be smoking trees, water in reeds, hard to grasp. He sheathed blade. Hullen, check harness. We ride again, once wagon stable. No true. Well. Gee. They pressed south the rest of day, skirting between hedgerows, sticking to cattle trails. Evening lay purple over hills when the round towers of Pink Maiden hove into view. Banners of House Piper, azure dancing maiden on Rosefield, stirring listlessly in shallow breeze. Atop battlements, sentries hailed Jon's column with cautious horns, lowered drawbridge over dry moat. Inside courtyard, Lord Clement Piper greeted them, auburn curls poking from open helm. His welcome smile died at sight of Bran's pallet and Rowan's battered form. He ushered them to hall where torches already guttered. Servants rushed bread, onions, wheels of white cheese. Yet no laughter warmed the stone. The news Jon carried weighed heavier than hunger. At high table, Ned Stark waited, riband of river lords arrayed to either side. Jon and Jory arrived mid-council, dust-caked, faces smoke-scored, heads turned. Report, Ned said. Jon described Stonehenge, Rowan's testimony, Lannister Bracken collusion, enemy cavalry. He spoke crisp yet without pity. The hall listened in taut silence. When he finished, Lord Jason Mallister slammed fist on board. Brackens, Traitors in our own ranks, they shall drown in their own moat. But Lord Tito's Blackwood rumbled, kill Brackens, and you feed old hatreds. Tywin risked no coin to spark. Ned raised a hand. Bracken treachery cannot stand, nor shall old feuds blind us to Lannister puppetry. Tomorrow we ride to confront Lord Jonas Bracken. I will hear his defense, if he dare speak. If he yields and bends knee, we bind him by hostage and oath. If he defies, we levy judgment. Murmurs rippled. Mallister wanted blood. Blackwood preferred caution. Piper offered to host the host overnight, feed them from cellars. Ned accepted. We march at dawn. Council dissolved into knots of whispered stratagems. JON guided Rowan to healer's quarters, where Maester's apprentice salved her bruises. Bran insisted on seeing ramparts by moonlight. Hullen carried him, wagon left to wheelwright's care. JON walked with them along, parapet, ghost pacing ahead. River wind carried scent of distant smoke, Tywin's hallmark. Stars flared bright. Spears of ancient warriors lost in void. Bran leaned on stone, gaze sweeping distance. The land is bleeding. It will bleed more before mended, JON said. Will you bleed with it? Bran's question was small, but heavier than chain. JON crouched. Steel answers steel. Blood answers blood. I would spare as many as may be spared, but the lion means war. Bran's fingers found JON's wrist. Just remember the cold thing watching beyond the world of crowns. When men burn each other for thrones, it waits. The tree dream showed me. JON's scalp prickled. Tell me. I saw a hill above the neck. On it grew a pine twin-trunked, white with snow though summer sun shone. Beneath its branches, two shadows fought, one crowned with frost, one crowned with flames, and far off, wolves howled, trying to warn men who would not hear. JON swallowed. Dreams are seldom plain, yet I'll heed your warning. Later that night, Ned found JON in a side chapel, candles guttering around stone effigy of some long-dead knight. Ghost dozed at threshold. JON knelt sharpening sword, letting hiss of whetstone soothe nerves. Ned shut oak door behind him. Scouts returned, he said. Tywin marches east, died when Riverlords set to meet him at Riverrun. He watched sparks leap as JON drew blade over stone. You did well today. I nearly cost us Bran, JON muttered. If that lance struck wagon instead of tree. Bran's eyes are brighter than yesterday. Your choice gave him hope. Ned took a seat on stone bench. Hope is rare coin. JON's whetstone slowed. Tomorrow we face Lord Bracken. Ned's grin was thin. Lord Bracken will face Lord Stark and the Blackfish and find his purse emptier than pride. He leaned forward. Yet while Riverlords douse local fires, bigger sparks fly. Baelish sends word. King's Landing is powder. Robert lies dying of boar wound. Cersei moves to crown Joffrey. The Lannisters hold the king's children as ward against Baratheon bastards. Stannis claims the throne by right. Now, JON laid sword across knees. What of Renly? Renly claims Banner's enough value to make right what blood denies. Ned grunted. 3 kings for 1 throne. Add a dragon, the realm unravels. JON's heartbeat thudded. I never asked Crown. Crown may ask you, Ned warned. If Stannis cannot win hearts, if Renly's charm fades, if dragons fire folks' fancy, he exhaled. I would shield you, but some storms break every wall. JON's gaze drifted to candle flame dancing on steel. I spoke truth to lords who might sooner slit my throat than kneel. I lived. If crown seeks me, I'll speak truth again. If swords follow the words, I'll answer steel. And if truth demands, fly banners of your own? Jon met Ned's gray eyes. Then I will fly them not against wolves who raised me. Dragon and wolf share sky. Silence hung. Ned nodded once, slowly. A pact sealed in quiet. Morning unfurled harsh and bright. The red fork shimmered like a mirror hammered flat. Jon rode beside Ned at column head while banners rippled overhead. Silver trout of Tully, gray direwolf of Stark, black ravens of Blackwood. Bran's wagon rolled near vanguard, flanked by armed outriders. Rowan rode pillion behind a scout, baby bundled to chest. Drums beat measured cadence. Dust plumed skyward. Lord Bracken's seat, the stone-ramped keep of the same name, sat beyond fields of rye running gold. As the host approached, horns blared alarm. Bracken men lined walls, yellow stallion on brown field waving above. Ned ordered halt within bowshot, and voice-bearing white banners advanced. Sir Stevron Frey of the Twin acted mediator. Walder Frey's second son, Weasel Thin. He bowed with oily courtesy, stating Lord Bracken wished parley inside walls, 2 lords each, no more. Ned refused. We parley here, under eyes of honest son. Bring your lord. The envoy scurried back. Minutes later, Jonas Bracken rode through gate, armored in gilded plate, helm crested with sculpted stallion mane. He trotted to 20 paces and removed helm, revealing hawk nose and sharp eyes. Lord Stark, he greeted. An honor. Lord Bracken. Ned kept voice flat. You burned Stonehenge and slaughtered small folk under my protection. A feuder than Andal's. Bracken shrugged. Stonehenge with hell ties, raided our herds, we answered. If Stark mislikes, Stark may repay. He eyed Jon. I hear wolves keep a dragon pup now. Dangerous to keep such pets. Behind Ned, Lord Tito's Blackwood snarled. Jon ignored Bracken's bait. Ned's tone chilled. You bandy rumors while Lannister men ride your colors. Explain that. Bracken's smile thinned. Friends are dear in war. Lord Tywin offers gold and marriage packs. Arms we need. In return, I flex old muscles against enemies. Simple. No treaty. Enemies? Or neighbors denied free fear? Ned asked. He drew forth a blood-stained linen swaddling cloth. Rowan's babe had soiled it after nursing. Behold the war trophies you claim. Children's screams, a mother's defiled body. He flung cloth at Bracken's horse. The animal danced aside. Bracken's face reddened. You come south brandishing bastard spawn of dead dynasty. Ned's hand rose. Signal. Archers knocked in unison. Bracken stopped. House Bracken stands accused of murder, rape, treason, Ned said. Yield and answer for crimes under Lord Paramount's judgment, or stand enemy to wolf and trout. Bracken's gaze flicked between drawn bowstrings. Sweat traced brow. And if I ride north to Tywin, he called. His justice is south, Ned said. I'd advise you ride swift. Bracken hesitated, a heartbeat, and spurred horse back toward gate. Arrows remained taut, but silent. Gate slammed. Mallister swore. Ned signaled withdraw out of bow range. Council convened near a berry thicket. Mallister urged immediate assault. Blackwood offered to storm personally. Piper cautioned Bracken walls stout. Ned turned to Jon. Your read? Jon cursed inner doubt, then spoke. Bracken will not face siege. Tywin's gold emboldens while untested. If we assault, we bleed men better spent against lions. Better starve him, cut roads, burn granaries. When frost comes, pride wanes. Mallister groaned. Months. A moon's turn until winter, Jon reminded. No crops feed traitors then. Ned nodded. We encircle, spare small folk, seize the mill towns. So they dug in. For 10 days, Stark outriders patrolled roads, capturing Bracken supply carts, half of which bore Lannister coins stamped with lion and maiden. Grain stores were redistributed to refugees. Small folk within Bracken lands whispered of wolf riders who paid fairly, harming none, while stallion-sigilled men took daughters and burned barns. Dissent simmered in Bracken's holdfast. At night, lantern lights flicked down valleys as villagers fled to Stark camps, swelling ranks. Rowan found cousins among them. Her babe thrived on goat milk supplied by Blackwood herders. Meanwhile, ravens winged into Pink Maiden, carrying word from King's Landing. Robert Baratheon, dead. Lord Eddard Stark accused of treason. Ned Stark attainted anew. Joffrey crowned under Lannister garb. Cersei demanded lords bend knee or face crown's wrath. Ned received the raven in private. Jon entered chamber later and found him hunched over parchment, hands trembling. "They name me traitor," Ned said, voice hollow. "They hold Sansa captive." Arya vanished. Jon's heart stuttered. "This proclamation cannot stand, nor can I abandon Sansa." Ned knuckled eyes. Robb marches south with Winterfell levies. War flames on 3 fronts: North, Riverlands, Crownlands. He looked up. "And you, my son, stand at center of whirlwind. Tywin will trumpet your birth to silence claims of Baratheon. Already rumors call you prince. Return to claim father's crown." Jon paced. "What say you?" "I say still the storm before it drowns us." Ned rose. "Robb marches. We must unite Riverlords under single banner. My name now divides. Yours, Maybine." Jon froze. "You would have me present yourself at Riverrun as neutral heir of Targaryen, sworn to hold hostages safe." Ned's words spilled fast. "Declare sanctuary for innocents. It stymies Lannister, spares Sansa. If Cersei fears dragon wrath, she bargains." Jon's stomach churned. "She might also send assassins. Risk his life." Ned clasped Jon's shoulders. "I ask, do not command." Jon looked into his father's eyes, saw desperate love. He thought of Sansa, gentling lady, beneath Winterfell's apple trees, of Arya chasing cats along crypt passages. He pictured them caged by Lannister cruelty. Then he thought of Rowan, of smoke rising over stone hedge, of bracken walls, to which small folk no longer fled. He drew breath. "I will go," he whispered. 3 nights later, Jon rode under cover of storm. Rain slashed the world, drumming helmet, soaking cloak, streaking horse's flank. He led a scant retinue: Jory Castle, Hullen, Lord Vance's Squire Tom, and Ghost, who loped ghost-like ahead, eyes burning. Bran remained at Pink Maiden under Ned's guardianship. Rowan aided camp healers, her babe sleeping warm on straw. The road to Riverrun wound through sodden meadows where lightning lit scarecrow silhouettes. Twice they skirted roving bands of sellswards, men wearing no sigil, plundering for coin. Ghost led them wide, thunder masked their passage. On 4th dawn they glimpsed Riverrun's triple walls rising beyond water curtains. Rivers had swelled, moats washing over weirs. Lord Hoster Tully lay dying, but Lady Catelyn greeted Jon at Barbican with silent embrace, tears mixing with rain. She'd received ravens, knew truth of his blood, yet held him still as stepmother more than court stranger. She led him to Solar, where Edmure, Brynden, and Riverlords pored over maps. Robb stood among them, his wolf-gray wind towering almost equal to Ghost. The room hushed as Jon entered. All eyes fixed on him, to some wonder, to others suspicion. Edmure's brows knitted, Lord Roose Bolton's pale gaze cut like thin ice. Robb strode forward, clasped Jon by 4 arms. "Brother," Robb said, simple and fierce. Jon's throat tightened. "Brother, They faced counsel. Jon recited Ned's plan, offering Riverrun as neutral haven, demanding fair treatment for hostages, forbidding rape and plunder in regions under his protection. Riverrun's maester would send ravens to every lord paramount, announcing sanctuary bound by dragon's oath and wolf's honor. Silence hung. Finally, Robb spoke. "It may stay Lannister knives, but if dragon turns on wolf, he will not," Jon said. "My fight lies not on iron seed of treachery, but in keeping realm from eating its own innards while winter gathers." Roose Bolton's voice slithered. Bold words. "Will you bend knee to my lord of Winterfell?" "Ningsi." Jon met his eyes without flinch. "I bend knee to the North and its people. Robb Stark is my brother and true king in the North, if Northmen choose him. I will not contest his crown." Robb blinked. Council murmured. Brynden leaned to whisper in Edmure's ear. Edmure nodded grudging approval. Catelyn stepped forward. "The council will consider. For now, rest." She squeezed Jon's hand. "Your father writes to us. You will need each other." Jon bowed. Ghost padded at his heel as gray wind circled, sniffing. The two direwolves touched noses, wolf greeting, then settled opposite each other by hearth, mirror images, one pale as moon, one gray as cloud. That night, thunder eased. Jon lay sleepless in a guest chamber where rushes smelled of lavender. Rain pattered slate roof, candle flickered. He thought of snow-white trees, of Lyanna's dying wish, of wings beating louder in his dreams. Sleep finally claimed him, deep and swift. He found himself atop a tower of ice, clouds swirling below. A dragon of shadows circled, wings casting hallucinatory eclipse. Jon felt the beast's ancient mind brush his own, searing, hungry, seeking. It bellowed a challenge. The sound shattered clouds, revealing armies marching beneath. Lions, stags, wolves, krakens, rose banners, all converging on a crumbling throne of swords. Beyond them, farther north, a wall of solid night rolled, devouring stars. The dragon turned to him. In its molten eye, Jon saw not terror, but recognition. It dipped a wing, wind roared. Jon realized the storm below was gathering to sweep the armies away. Make space for something older than crowns. The dragon's voice thundered inside his skull, not in words, but pulse. Choose. He reached, not with hands but will, and laid claim to the wild furnace at the beast's core. Flame bloomed, not hot but cold blue, singing through his bones. The dragon roared assent, diving toward the wall of night with Jon astride. He woke gasping, sheets clutched. Ghost stood on chest, licking sweat from his brow. Dawnlight seeped through arrow slit, pink as new forged steel. Outside, horns blew arrival. Ned Stark's host riding in mudslick coifs. Jon rose, buckled sword, and hurried to courtyard. Rain had abated to mist. Banners drooped under pearl droplets. Bran's wagon rolled inside gates. Boy wide-eyed, cloak pulled tight. Ned dismounted, boots splashing puddles. Father and son clasped arms. Ned's eyes sharpened. "Are we sanctuary or siege?" "Council ways," Jon said. "Host stands ready." Ned looked past him where Robb approached, flanked by gray wind. Father greeted son unparted. The two embraced, both taller than memory. Catelyn joined, hugging Robb fiercely, then turned to Ned, eyes shining. Yet before words ripened, a horn blast sounded frantic. Sentinels cried approach. Over the river's ford a black and gold banner bobbed. A crowned stag within fiery heart. "Stannis," Ned breathed. "He rides faster than ravens." Riders splashed over ford, hooves churning mud. At front rode Ser Davos Seaworth, cloak of black wool pinned by onion clasp. Behind, 400 Stormlander knights. They reined in, lowered lances, But Davos raised palm. "In King Stannis' name, we seek parley," he called. Ned strode forth, rain dripping from hair. "You are welcome. Whose quill writ Stannis king yet?" "Law," Davos said simply. His gaze landed on JON. Eyes widened. He dismounted, knelt on muddy stone before JON. "Your Grace." Shock rippled. JON shook head. "I am no king. Blood says otherwise," Davos replied, mud splattering cloak. "Stannis would have audience, beg truth from dragon's mouth. He believes prophecy reborn with you." Ned's hand settled on sword pommel, though blade stayed sheathed. Robb's eyes narrowed. In one breath, the fragile pact of wolves and dragons balanced on a knife. JON exhaled. "I will speak with Lord Stannis." Davos rose. "Then realm may yet be saved." JON followed Davos toward Ford, ghost at heel. Behind him, Ned and Robb conferred in hurried whispers. Above them, Riverrun's ramparts thrummed with watchers, hope and dread mingling. Rain ceased, clouds parting to reveal sliver of sun. Light struck the river, setting ripples ablaze. And somewhere beyond sight, across battle lines not yet drawn, wings stirred in shadows, listening to hearts of men choose which oaths to heed when winter's final song began. The courtyard smelled of damp straw and weary men. Stannis Baratheon arrived beneath a bruised morning sky, rain-dark surcoat bearing the fiery heart of the Lord of Light, sewn over the crowned stag of Storm's End. His expression was chiseled from the same unyielding granite that shaped the battlements of Dragonstone. And when he dismounted his destrier, he spared no glance for banners fluttering above Riverrun's walls. Only a brief, cutting survey of the Watchers. Grey Wind's low growl vibrated through the hush. Ghost answered with a deep-chested rumble that sent stable hands scattering. Stannis halted 3 paces from JON, measuring him as if choosing where to split firewood. "You are the boy Ned Stark smuggled from Dorne," he said, voice rasped thick with sea-wind grit. "Son of Rhaegar and Lyanna Stark, the realm has long whispered, but whispers become shouts." JON inclined his head. "I am Aegon Targaryen in blood, Jon Snow in heart, sworn to keep the realm from ruin. Ruin is here." Stannis' gauntlet pointed south. "Aine, a bastard boy sits the Iron Throne, under a mother's skirts. Lannisters poison kings, wine, and royal line. Robert raised me to fight wolves, boars, krakens, any beast threatening his peace. Now the beast is a golden lion." He drew breath that steamed in the chill. "You would contest that throne. I contest men who butcher children and burn villages." JON answered. "The chair of swords can rot for all I care. A war for crowns whilst winter presses from the far north is madness." Stannis' lips twitched, half sneer, half considering smile. "You sound more maester than dragon. Will a maester's quill stop whites emerging from the lands of always winter? Will a crown forged of swords warm a single camp when the sun fails?" JON stepped forward, boots splashing through standing rainwater. "I've seen nights beyond the wall. Something stirs that has slept thousands of years. If a king is needed, it is a king who understands the true enemy." Behind JON, Ned watched their exchange with clenched jaw. Robb's hand rested on Grey Wind's ruff. Brynden Tully, the Blackfish, crossed his arms, studying Stannis the way a veteran hawk studies weather. "What say you, Lord Stannis?" Ned asked, voice even. "Winter falls heavy in the north. My banners will ride for my daughters, and to end Lannister tyranny, but Northmen will not bend knee to any who do not heed the wall's plight." "Knee?" Stannis met Ned's gaze. "You were Robert's true brother in honor, Stark. That counts for something." He pivoted back to JON. I ride with 700 knights, 3,000 foot, enough to crack Riverrun's siege if lions come. Too few to storm King's Landing without river lords. Orlora's flames show me shattered crowns and living shadows. They show me you. Davos Seaworth cleared his throat. Gravel saw. His Grace's priestess, Lady Melisandre, speaks of a prince born under Bleeding Star, to wake dragons from stone. I was born beneath the red comet that split the sky the year after the trident, Jon said quietly. And dragons have no stone eggs left to hatch. Prophecy is a glass smeared with ash, Davos murmured. But even ash shows truth if wind blows clean. Stannis' impatience cracked. Enough riddles. I propose this. Stark and Tully ride south with me. We break the lion's grip on the Riverlands. I name Eddard Stark my hand again, and he hesitated, your bloodline my shield. When I sit the Iron Throne, Aegon Targaryen shall be legitimized Lord Paramount of the North in his cousin Robb's stead, if Robb chooses crowns elsewhere. Or if Northmen mean to secede, I'll honor their choice after the war. No. A pulse went through the Watchers. Shock, suspicion, hope. Robb's eyes flashed. The North crowns no southern lord, he growled. If you sit the Iron Throne by northern swords, you sit by northern leave. Stannis turned the weight of his stare upon Robb. Break the lion first, then argue where the wolf sleeps. Jon raised a gloved hand. You won't do. Words alone change nothing. Show me good faith. Aid us against Tywin at the Golden Tooth. Free the Riverlands of pillage. Then we talk thrones. Naman, Shadi, Shermadasi. Stannis' gauntlets tightened. The courtyard waited. Rain began again, light as whisper. At last he jerked a nod. I will lead my host west to the Tooth. You, Dragon Wolf, ride with me. We show the realm a united front of North, Storm, and Dragon. Betray me, and I will carve your name from every stone in Westeros. Jon's answering nod was steady. You will not need to. Ned stepped between them, voice low. We march dawn after next. Riverrun will provision your men. Stannis grunted assent, turned on heel and strode off toward the ford, Davos and banners trailing like wary seabird. Conversation erupted. Jon felt it swirl around him like leaves in a gale. Lords argued costs, grain stores, prestige. Ghost pressed his hip, fur soaked but warmth steady. That night, a war council filled Riverrun's great hall. Maps unfurled across trestles, wine splashed, steel-shod fingers traced roads. Edmure Tully paced, fretting about Lannister outriders near Ashmark. Lord Vance spoke of Bracken defections. Roose Bolton offered the glint of strategy darker than steel. Send his flayed men in night raids to bleed Tywin's foragers. Ned listened but shook his head. Terror bred more foes than it killed. Jon stood beside Robb and Bran's pallet. Bran clung to each report like puzzle pieces, sliding into a dream of ravens. The lion is cornered, he whispered to Jon. Cornered lions bite. We'll wear gauntlets, Jon assured. Stannis entered midway, Melisandre sweeping after him in crimson. Her eyes glowed candle gold. She stared at Jon, as if seeing another world overlaying this one, the lips moving in silent prayer. Jon felt heat prick under his collar. When she spoke, her voice was a silk rope tightening. The night is long and full of terrors, yet you shall blaze like dawnfire, Lord Snow. Jon inclined his head with care. Snow melts in fire. I hope your prophecy spares Winterfell. She smiled, secret. Plan settled. A combined force of 16,000 would march west at first light, swing south along River Road, choke the Golden Tooth between hammer and anvil. Robb would command vanguard cavalry with Blackfish, striking supply lines. Stannis would hold main host. Jon would ride flank with Davos, fielding scouts and messenger ravens. Ned, though every instinct urged sword in hand, had promised Catelyn to remain behind, leading reserves and safeguarding Bran. Sansa once freed, and the refugees gathered under Riverrun's wings. Ghost and Grey Wind would both ride. As hour grew late, Jon left the bustle to seek quiet. He found it atop Riverrun's eastern wall walk, lanterns bobbing in mist. River roar below felt like the heartbeat of the world. Ghost padded ahead, shook rain from coat. The smell of wet stone filled Jon's lungs, grounding him. Then footsteps sounded, soft, practiced. Arya. But when he turned, it was Catelyn, cloak cinched tight. She stopped short, uncertain. Moonlight caught the lines of fatigue, carving her cheeks. Lady Catelyn, Jon greeted softly. She leaned on the crenellation beside him, gaze on black water eddying around the keep. "I was never kind enough," she said without preamble. "To you." Jon looked back to the river. "Kindness is a hearth that cannot warm every room." Wind tangled her auburn hair. "I feared for my children's rights, their lives." Ned kept secrets beyond a wife's trust. "But tonight I heard you speak of arrows white and kings shattered. You stood for my girls, though not of my blood. You are Lyanna's." Her voice shook. "I loved your mother as sister in all but blood. She died while I waited to meet her." Jon swallowed. "I have only shards of her through father's silence." Catelyn's hand found his sleeve. She was wildfire. No sunrise. Fierce, intractable, but tender to the weak. You carry her eyes when you look north. The river hissed. Jon's chest ached with a longing older than memory. "Thank you." She released him, tears slipping. "Bring my girls back." He nodded. She left. Hours later, Jon slept, if the restless drifting of pre-battle can be called sleep. He dreamed again of the ice tower, but this time the dragon in shadow circled lower. It bore a rider armored in night, face mirrored, reflecting Jon's own features in perfect, merciless glass. The reflection raised a sword forged from absolute dark, edge humming a hunger beyond hunger. Jon awoke before the strike, soaked in cold sweat. Dawn came in blood bands across the horizon. The host assembled outside Riverrun, rank on rank of mail-coated men steaming in dew. Drums hammered, banners swayed, ravens wheeled overhead. Stannis rode at column center beneath a standard stitched by Melisandre, a blazing sword under red comet. Some river lords muttered but fell quiet when Ned Stark bade them remember the trident, where Rhaegar's rubies still slept under mud. Jon mounted his gray, adjusted wolf-dragon cloak, felt Ghost leap to heel. Bran raised a hand from his wagon as they passed. Jon returned salute. Robb led vanguard, Grey Wind trotting with predatory glee. They marched 2 days, unopposed. Scouts downed bracken beacons before sparks could flare. Field after field lay harvested by Lannister foragers, but Tywin's main strength remained faceless beyond the Golden Tooth's mountains. On the third morning, a messenger galloped breathless. Lannister outriders ambushed an Umber column 6 miles north, seized wagons of grain. Robb wheeled cavalry without waiting. Blackfish cursed but followed. Jon and Davos rode hard to catch them. The field of clash was a treeless slope where yellow grass lay trampled under hooves. Gray-clad northern horse thundered against crimson lines. Lannister archers loosed. Arrows hissed. Jon's sword cleared scabbard as he crashed into melee. Destrier colliding flank to flank with a lion knight. Steel rang. Men screamed. The air tasted metallic. He parried a mace, riposted severed wrist, shoved wounded rider aside. Ghost tore a crossbowman's knee, ripping him down in a spray of red. Jon glimpsed Robb, cleaving through a cluster. Grey wind launching at a bannerman's throat. The lion line buckled. Blackfish's horn sounded charge. Piper lancers smashed a flank. Within minutes, crimson banners withdrew, leaving 80 corpses and 100 broken arrows behind. Jon dismounted among carcasses, chest heaving. The grass beneath boots was slippery, his sword weighted with clotted blood. Robb grinned, fierce and feral, clasped Jon's forearm. "You ride like a storm," he panted, "and you lead like one." Jon turned as Davos trotted up, face gray but relieved. Yet celebration died when scouts returned with tidings. The wagon train these lions protected was bait. Tywin's main host had crossed Tumblestone in the night, pushing south toward Riverrun, while Stark and Baratheon forces chased scraps. Ned and Bran were in their path. Orders crackled. Robb commanded half the cavalry to harry Lion rear, then pivot east. Stannis, alerted by Raven, was already reforming infantry to race back. Davos handed Jon fresh horse. The Dragon Wolf would ride as courier between split forces. Thus began a desperate race. Dust clouds billowed as thousands wheeled east, pounding ground into powder. Jon led the messenger column, Ghost ranging ahead. At dusk bridges loomed, Tumblestone churned brown, swollen by storms. Lannister banners glowed on far bank, a sea of red cloaks, siege towers rolling, horns mocking. Riverrun's outer defenses bristled with archers, but Ned's smaller garrison looked fragile against lion tide. Fire ships drifted downriver, Lannister trick, lighting water with spreading flames. Jon spurred across pontoon, just as ropes snapped under flaming arrow. His horse leapt, landing hooves on planks tilting into torrent. He cleared, rolled free, felt bridge collapse behind. Only 3 riders made it across. The rest plunged into river or drew up short on far side, arrows chasing. Ned met him inside gate. Lions carved by sleepless nights stood stark. Report. Robb drives their rear. Stannis 3 hours march. Jon sucked ragged breaths. Tywin aims to seize hostages. Break your cause. Ned's eyes darkened. Then we hold until dawn. Hold was lean word for what followed. Tywin Lannister's Zigetowers lumbered under torch rain, scorpion bolts raking parapets. Stone crashed, men screamed. Ned orchestrated defense with surgeon precision. Molten pitch here, murder holes there. Archers on the water tower peppered tower crews. Davos' smuggler ingenuity had earlier seeded casks of wildfire along riverside approach. At Ned's signal, flaming arrows sank casks, emerald plumes roaring skyward, consuming siege ladders in hissing roar. Lord Tywin observed from Crimson Pavilion, expression inscrutable. He unleashed reserve of Casterly bowmen. Arrows sleeted. One found gap in Maester Luwin's helm. He fell beside Bran's wagon, blood spurting. Bran watched, wide-eyed, too stunned for tears. Catelyn dragged Bran behind Creno, pressing bandage to Maester's pulsing throat. Night deepened. Fires painted faces, corpse red. Jon fought atop east wall, blade arm numb, shield split. Ghost darted between legs, hamstringing invaders. Weiss Jon's life hung on reflex. A sword point scraping mail at Ab, a maul splintering parapet where his head had been. Yet he felt no fear, only a furnace roar under ribs. Dragon or wolf, he could not tell. Near midnight, Tywin's battering ram shattered the ferry gate. Iron ranks surged. Ned led countercharge. Blade met blade in torch glare. Bolton's flares arrived unbidden, dripping red enamel, carving a corridor through Lion's shield wall with horror enough to chill even Grey Wind's blood. Jon flinched at their handiwork but could not deny the effect. Lannister line faltered. Then horns on river's east bank, 3 deep calls. Shadowed banners appeared against flames, crowned stag in fiery heart, direwolf crowned by torch. Stannis' infantry crashed into Tywin's unguarded flank. Robb's cavalry followed, sabers out, tearing through siege engineers. Battle became rout. Tywin, seeing encirclement, sounded retreat, an orderly withdrawal that devolved in darkness as panic snatched reins. Some lions fled into river, drowning beneath armor. Others dropped banners, surrendered. Grey wind and ghost herded knots of captives into muddy pits, eyes blazing in reflected firestorm. At dawn, light revealed a field of smoldering timber and trampled red cloaks. Lannister losses ran heavy. Stark Baratheon dead counted fewer, yet too many for any mother's heart. Maester Luwin lived, stitched by cats' trembling hands through the night. Inside Riverrun's shattered courtyards, councils quickened. Stannis demanded immediate march on King's Landing, hammer while lion reled. Ned insisted on pause to treat wounded and bury dead, but relented to a compromise. Leave wounded under guard, ride light and swift. Jon stood between wearing wills, steadying them. Yet as sun climbed, a raven arrived from the wall, wings ragged. The message read in Ned's hall. Riders in the night, dead walk. We ride for the fist. All realms must send aid or perish in darkness. Silence swallowed torches. Stannis' jaw clenched. Robb met Jon's eyes, both seeing the path splitting again. Catelyn touched Bran's shoulder. Bran whispered, wing in shadow. Jon stepped forward. The true war comes from the north. Crowns and castles will mean nothing if the wall falls. Stannis' glare pierced. Abaddon tuned to frozen tales. Jon didn't flinch. I've sworn no oath but to life. March with me to the wall. Win the north of living hearts, and the realm will follow without need of conquest. A murmur rumbled. Disbelief, hope. Ned's voice low but iron. Ice first, then fire. Stannis' fist thumped table. I will think on it. Night fell uneasy. In the quiet hours, Jon found Bran by the god's wood heart tree transplanted from Winterfell years before. Red leaves rustled though no wind stirred. Bran stared at carved face weeping sap. Will he march north? Bran asked. He will, Jon said, though he did not know, or else we go without. Bran's hand pressed bark. The tree showed me a dragon of shadow meeting ice of glass. Only fire grown cold can shatter cold grown alive. He turned eyes too old for boyhood. You must be both. Jon knelt, clasped Bran's hand. We will face it together. The heart tree's tear of sap glistened like blood below dawn. At sunrise, Stannis assembled lords in ruined hall. Melisandre cast scarlet rays through colored glass as sun surged. Stannis' voice rang. The wall cries. R'hllor's flames reveal a darkness none but Azor Ahai can break. I march north. Those with courage ride with me. The rest spider in halls of petty quarrel and perish. Shock froze room. Then Davos knelt. Robb drew sword, kissed blade, and said, The king in the north rides, wherever the night falls. Brynden Blackfish saluted. Even stoic Roose Bolton bowed head, though his eyes remained calculating. Ned crossed to Jon, laying hand on his shoulder. Your mother always said winter would show the worth of summer's seeds. Jon met his father's gaze. Let's hope she planted deep. 3 days later, the host turned north, weather already sharpening and leaves turning copper. Ravens sped ahead to Castle Black. Behind, Riverrun's ruins began mending under Tully banners, and deep within Dragonstone's painted chambers, a queen in green and a dwarf prisoner learned from Littlefinger's whisper that a dragon prince now marched beneath a fiery stag to meet the dead. Far beyond, on winds howling over the icy haunted forest, the others raised glacier blue eyes to the sky, sensing somewhere a new light gathering its first heat. And within Jon Snow's breast, beneath leather and mail, and the smear of 2 wars, something stirred that was not wholly wolf nor dragon, an ember flaring toward a blaze that could either warm the world or burn it to cinders, depending on which wind stoked it first.